had this job at McDonald's during college, working part-time to pay the bills. It was usually pretty uneventful. Busy rushes, grumpy customers, the usual stuff. But this one evening changed all that, and to this day, I can't shake what happened. It was around 7 p.m., and this woman came in with her son, a little boy, about 6 or 7. He was clutching a small toy in his hand and didn't say much, just followed his mom like he was half asleep. They ordered a Happy Meal and sat down in the corner near the windows. The restaurant wasn't too busy, and I remember keeping an eye on them because the kid just seemed off. Too quiet for his age, you know. After a few minutes, the mom came up to the counter. I'll never forget the look on her face, pure panic. She said her son had gone to the bathroom and hadn't come back. My stomach dropped. The restroom was just around the corner, so I figured maybe he was just taking his time. But I could tell something was wrong. I went to check, but when I walked in, the restroom was empty. I even checked the stalls, but there was no sign of him. I went back out to the woman and told her I couldn't find him. And she started freaking out, crying and asking if anyone had seen him leave. My manager came over and we quickly decided to check the security cameras. That's when things got real. On the footage, we saw the boy get up from the table and head towards the bathroom. But just before he got there, a man, someone we hadn't noticed before, stepped into frame. He was tall, scruffy, wearing a dark hoodie, and he looked like he was waiting for something. The boy barely glanced at him, probably thinking he was just another customer. But then the man grabbed him by the shoulder, leaned down, and whispered something in his ear. The boy hesitated, but the man nudged him, and they walked out the side door together, completely unnoticed. It was like the air got sucked out of the room. None of us had even seen the guy come in, let alone take the kid. My manager called the police immediately, but by the time they arrived, the guy and the boy were long gone. We all stood there, helpless, watching the footage over and over, trying to figure out how we missed it. The worst part was how calm the guy had been, like he had done this before. And the boy didn't scream or struggle. He just went with him, probably thinking it was someone his mom knew. It made my skin crawl. The police combed the area and we gave them the footage. But they told us later that the guy had probably planned this out. He knew there weren't many cameras in the parking lot, and he must have known exactly when to act. They put out an alert, but there wasn't much else they could do that night. The woman was beside herself, crying, shaking, begging for someone to bring her son back. A couple of days later, we heard the news. They found the kid, thankfully, alive, but far from where we were, miles away. The man had tried to drive him out of state, but a gas station clerk noticed something was off when the kid wouldn't make eye contact. The clerk called the police, and they managed to stop the car just in time. Turns out, the guy had been stalking the place for weeks, watching for kids who came in with distracted parents. He'd been caught before for something similar, but had somehow gotten out of it. And this time, he nearly got away with it. I still think about that little boy, how close he came to disappearing forever. Every time I see a parent distracted on their phone while their kid wanders around, I want to scream at them to pay attention, because it only takes 1 second, one person, to change everything. And that night, I learned just how easy it can happen. I used to work the night shift at a McDonald's just outside of town. You know, it's the only place open after midnight, so we got all kinds of people coming through. But there was this one guy, I still can't get him out of my head. It started on a Wednesday night, around 2:30 a.m. A guy came through the drive-thru in a beat-up old sedan. I remember his face clear as day. Thin, hollow cheeks, eyes sunken in like he hadn't slept in weeks. He was quiet, didn't say much, just ordered a plain cheeseburger and a black coffee. No big deal, right? Happens all the time. But then, the next night, same time, same order, same guy. This time, he stared at me for a little longer when I handed him his food. His eyes, they were dark, almost lifeless. I felt a weird chill, but I brushed it off. I mean, working nights, you see some weird stuff. By the third night, I started to get this sick feeling in my stomach. He came again, same time, same order. But this time, after I handed him the bag, he didn't drive away. He just sat there, staring straight ahead, not even looking at me. After a few minutes, I asked, "Is everything all right?" His reply was chilling. "You'll see soon enough." I was rattled, but I let him go, thinking maybe he was just messing with me. But the next night, I didn't see his car. Instead, I saw him. He was standing outside the restaurant, by the back door, just staring. He didn't move, didn't say anything. I called my manager, but by the time anyone came out to check, he was gone. That's when things started getting really creepy. Over the next few nights, I'd catch glimpses of him in the reflection of the drive-thru window or in the parking lot, standing by the dumpster, always watching. I started driving home a different route every night, just to be sure he wasn't following me. Then, one night, I was closing up, and as I was locking the doors, I saw his car parked across the street, just sitting there. I went back inside and called the cops, but when they arrived, he was gone. They told me there wasn't much they could do, just to stay alert. The last night I worked there, I was heading out to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there he was, standing just a few feet away, smiling. But it wasn't a normal smile. It was wide, forced, like he was trying too hard. He leaned in and whispered, "I've been waiting." I ran to my car, heart pounding, and peeled out of the parking lot. I didn't look back. I quit the next day and never worked another night shift. But sometimes, late at night, I still feel like he's watching me. I work at a McDonald's in a small town, and we've got our regulars. You know, the same people come through the drive-thru every day, order the same thing, give you a quick smile, and drive off. But there was this one guy who started coming through that I'll never forget. It was a Friday evening, just before closing, and this guy pulled up in a beat-up truck. He looked rough. Greasy hair, dirty clothes, but nothing too out of the ordinary. He ordered a large fries and a Coke. When I handed him his food, he just sat there for a second staring at me. Then he said, "You have a nice smile." I was polite, thanked him, and he drove off. But over the next few weeks, he started coming back more often. At first, it was just once or twice a week, but then it became almost every night. And every time, he'd linger a little longer, watching me through the window. He'd make small talk, asking about my shift, how late I worked, if I lived nearby. It started to get creepy. One night, I was taking out the trash around the back of the building when I saw his truck parked in the lot. He wasn't at the drive-thru, just sitting there, watching me. I pretended not to notice, quickly dumped the trash and went back inside. I told my manager, but by the time anyone checked, the truck was gone. The next night, he came through again, and this time, he asked if I had a boyfriend. I lied and said yes, hoping it would make him back off, but he just smiled and said, "I didn't think so." That night, I asked to switch to the morning shift. A few days later, I was getting into my car after work when I saw the truck parked across the street. I didn't see him, but I knew he was there, watching. I drove home as fast as I could, feeling like I was being followed. I kept checking my mirrors, but I couldn't see the truck. Still, I didn't sleep that night. The last straw came a week later. I was walking to my car when I noticed something on my windshield. It was a note, scrawled in messy handwriting. "I know where you live." I quit that day and never went back. To this day, I don't know who that man was, but sometimes, when I'm out late, I swear I still see that truck in my rearview mirror.